Alright, how we doing, folks? Thought I would make a video about engineering, or my approach to engineering, I guess. And I just want to make some comments about this product. I got my new Ultra Pushes complete, and they work really good. I just can't decide if I want to actually sell these. They turned out so well. This one's got some curl in it. So I got another rack here that I just want to talk about. I just did one. This is a rather large unit. It's designed to max out an end cap in a high-end store somewhere, and it's going to pack out a lot of product. But I just want to talk about this product, and this, what you see here is the result of years of development in engineering and experimentation with different materials, joinery methods, design and construction. But I'm pretty happy with how this turned out as far as just, the process of building it. And I just want to discuss, what I like about it and why it works. So I mentioned engineering, and, there's a lot of different perspectives on what engineering is. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions about it too. And I see a lot of woodworkers kind of fall into this sort of, they're trying to take an engineering approach, but they're, really over-engineering and overbuilding with their construction. And I just want to talk about that because if you're really doing engineering, the whole point of it is to minimize the amount of material and the amount of effort and cost that goes into something, but working within a threshold of, having it last long enough, with a margin of safety, being able to support its load capacity within, a reasonable, plus or minus. Okay. But engineering takes into account all of those factors, and, the cost of production is the whole point, okay? If you overbuild something, you're spending too much money, you're spending too much time on it, and you're not going to make enough money, you're not going to compete in any marketplace, okay? So if you're taking the hobbyist approach to woodworking, you can engineer it any way you want. You can build it any way you want, spend as much time as you want, make it out of whatever material, that you're doing it for the intrinsic value, or the joy of using tools. And I'm not putting anything down. I'm not saying that that's wrong, but I'm just saying, well, this is what engineering really is. And that's the big difference between like the hobbyist mindset to woodworking and the professional mindset, is that, professionals have to work with those limitations of time, materials, and, if you overbuild it, it's incorrect, it's a mistake. So this rack is not built to last. I was told by the guy I work with at the potato chip company that the average lifespan of a store fixture is 3 to 5 years. And the reason why the turnover rate is so high is because things get wrecked in supermarkets. They take a lot of abuse. And also there's a high changeover rate. New products come in. There's things always changing in the supermarket world. And so racks just don't stick around that long. The way things work in the grocery stores is that everything that's on the shelf is actually real estate that is paid for by the brand names, that want to get placement in the big chains. It doesn't work that way in the small chains, but the big grocery stores, everything that's on a shelf is actually real estate that's paid for and competed for. I didn't know that's how it worked in grocery stores. I just thought the price of the product was, how the business worked, but, it's actually a very competitive marketplace. So the point I want to make is it doesn't make sense to make a rack that's designed to last more than 10 years. Okay, if the average lifespan is 5 years before, things change, doesn't make sense to overbuild something. And when I was learning, how to design and build with wood, I would tend to over-engineer things too. And the reason why is because I wasn't really sure how strong my joinery was. I wasn't really sure if I was using enough glues, enough fasteners, and that kind of thing. So I would overcompensate, based on that kind of unknownness that, I'm not sure if my product is good enough. Okay? And a lot of beginner woodworkers are going to tend to overbuild things, overcompensate, use too much glue. That's one of the things that beginner woodworkers always do, is that they make a big, huge mess of glue everywhere, okay, because they're scared that they're not going to use enough, right? That their thing is going to fall apart. And once you work with glue for many, many years, and what it really takes for you to understand what wood glue does is you have to actually break things apart. You have to actually put them together and then take a hammer to it or a clamp and just bust it apart and see what it does. See how difficult it is to take apart. And a good way to test a glue joint of its integrity is to see if the grain actually breaks. If your glue joint breaks clean, that means you didn't pull any grain. But if you break it apart and there's pieces of the other wood attached to it, that means you have a real strong bond. It's stronger than the wood fibers itself. Okay, and that means you have a good joint. But what does it take to make a good glue joint? Beginner woodworkers aren't going to know. Okay? You don't know how much glue you really need until you do enough things and break enough things apart and have enough finishing jobs ruined by glue messes. And then you understand that you need to restrain that glue and keep it under control. Okay? And that makes the building process work. This is the business world, and that's my approach, because I have to adapt and create some purpose for my woodshop to exist here. So I have to make product and that makes money. Okay, so this product here is designed to make me money. The process of building it is designed to have a profit margin at the end of the day. Okay, so I'm not overbuilding it. I'm minimizing, cutting out as many corners as I possibly can in the production of this rack. And I'll just talk about the joinery that I use here. This is pine that is glued and stapled. This is just a butt joint. And this triangle cleat here is just tacked in place with more glue. So I've got 1, 2, 3 glue surfaces. And I don't just staple and glue it, I also clamp it. So the clamping squeezes everything together. It makes sure that the glue gets sucked in or pushed into the grain, so I get a good bond there, and it closes up that glue joint. If I just staple it and glue it without clamping it, it will make it probably half as strong and more liable to break apart. But here's the thing, is this joint as good as it can be? No. I could have made a rabbet to get a little bit more glue surface in there. Okay, I could make like a box joint. I could make a dovetail. I could pocket screw these. I actually used to do that because I wanted to eliminate the clamping. But then I went back to clamping. Just testing different ways of doing it. but it's not as good as it can be. It's just stapled, glued, and then reinforced with a block. But this joinery method is what I've come up with to be as strong as it needs to be to meet the function of this unit. This is just to hold up potato chips. Okay, so there might be at maximum 40 pounds of product on this whole rack, evenly distributed. The bags only weigh 2 ounces each, so it might get maybe 5 pounds right there, but it's not designed to hold up a lot of weight. And if a kid is going to climb up, it's probably going to break. Okay, and that happens. Okay, it's not my responsibility to build something that's going to survive a tornado. All right, it's not indestructible, but it's as good as it needs to be to meet the requirements of the company, to function and do what it needs to do. And I'll tell you right now, it's a hell of a lot better than 95% of the store fixtures that you might see in a supermarket. Okay? The company really likes these screen shelves because you can see all the way through. You can see the light all the way on the bottom there. And that helps sell the product and make it more visible and keeps it from getting buried in there. I actually do this thing now where I'll go shopping at all these various grocery stores, and my wife will just be reading the product labels forever, and I'll be looking at racks. Every time I see a custom rack for a specialty food product in a store, I always inspect it, look underneath it, see how it's put together, what kind of materials they use. I'm just interested in it, okay? Because all these different companies come up with all these creative things. Some of them are really funky. But most of the racks are not built by professional craftsmen. They're built by people who work in the with these brand name food items that they're like sales reps. So things are built with drywall screws. You see exposed fasteners on the outside. They're overly built. They use twice as much material that they really need. They're trying to make a unique fixture, but it really helps to have professional experience to know how much you need to put into something and still have it work. And that's what engineering is. It's knowing where those margins of safety and functionality are, so that you can minimize everything and cut corners. I mean, that's how you make money. It's by cutting corners. I'm just one guy in a wood shop, but how am I going to compete with factories, that cater to the market, for this type of product? It's not lacquered, it's not even clear coated. I can't do a clear coat finish. I'm pretty much limited to just one coat of exterior stain in any color the company wants, but I can't do a lacquered finish. Bigger companies can. I can't compete with that. This is the best I can do. And the way that I can compete with those factories that can do a better finish is that I can do the customization. I can make it any size. And that's important to these companies because the real estate that these things go in is actually really expensive. So this rack right here takes less than 1 day. So I can start with the raw materials and transform them into a finished product that you see here in less than 1 day of time. So that's pretty good to be able to make a finished product of this size and put everything together like that, with it being finished. It's just one coat on there. I'm not saying it's looking great. I mean, it's got some smudges and drips, whatever. It's just a potato chip rack. It doesn't have to be perfect. I actually have to deliver this piece now to another local business that makes the header cards and the logos, and they're just down the road. They're called Vermont Tees. Maybe I'll take you down there. Let's go for a little drive. I gotta go into the garage because I just feel like I gotta clarify. But traditional woodworking, you know, I appreciate it, but it's just, now, 200 years ago or 300 years ago, or, you know, whenever traditions start, there's a reason why they become tradition, and it's because there's something that works. There's some special combination that works for the market, for the economy in that time period. And there's a lot of engineering involved. Like all the traditional woodworking that, you know, people kind of respect nowadays as the standard for fine woodworking, you know, it all was invented by somebody. Somebody came up with the engineering principles and, you know, refined the process and the understanding of the material in such a way that they found that combination that really worked. And that becomes the tradition because that knowledge of how to do that becomes extremely valuable and worthwhile to pass on from generation to generation. So nowadays, fine woodworking is different because it's more of a novelty and an appreciation of history and, you know, connecting with the relic of the past. Crunchy out there. But as I was saying, connecting with the relic from the past, it's not really a functioning economic principle. It doesn't give anybody an advantage to make more money. Now, some fine woodworkers make money, okay? There's different ways of doing it. I'm not going to get into that in this video. There is a business side of fine woodworking that I'm not really going to be able to relate to. I do low-end woodworking, and that's kind of my specialty. But I'm not ashamed to be a low-end woodworker, okay? You know, back when I started making videos, recording my time and doing the cost analysis, I kind of went back and forth for a while to, you know, determine if it's a good idea to start sharing my prices for things and, you know, how much money I make on what I build. And, you know, I didn't intend to share that information when I started, but then I kind of realized that, you know, a lot of people ask about that stuff not because they're nosy or, you know, want to copy something, you know, it's because they want to learn how to do the business. And, you know, I think that information about how to price your work, how to record your time and add it all up is really valuable knowledge. So that's the point that I want to make. I make shitty low-end furniture out of pine and cheap plywood, but I can make $100 an hour. Now, if I can teach you how to make $100 an hour, isn't that knowledge worthwhile to pass on? Think about it. I think there's a huge untapped market out there for small businesses and individual craftspeople to compete with the products that large factories kind of, you know, have a monopoly on, because maybe woodworkers just don't have the confidence to step up to the game and compete. But I stepped up and I can compete with the factories. All the products, all the snack racks that I build, the products that I do in production, those pole racks and the 6 basket racks, those were actually products made by other factories. I'm a copycat. I copied. I actually had their product in my shop, studied how they built it, and made it better. You know, everybody copies. It's part of competing. So, but that's the point. I was able to come up with a process that worked for the company and worked for my shop and the way I build things. And I could still do it at a price that made sense. And the company wins because they save on shipping and they get a customized product that maximizes their pack out. And, you know, I can make it not fall apart. So that's how I compete. That's how I can make $100 an hour. Potentially, not every job. But I'm pretty confident that I can get at least 50 an hour, okay, which is like my minimum. And even that is better than some of the high-end jobs that I do. Because, as I've shown in previous videos, I can make a beautiful piece of furniture and build it right and really think that I met all the specifications that the customer wanted, and I can still not get paid for that work. Here it is.